Bright lights, bright lights.
Good morning and welcome to Roslyn Hill Chapel, Bright Lights. If you have a candle, now is a great time to light it with your family. We are the chapel of the open minds, the loving hearts, and the helping hands. If you'd like to press the pause to reflect button with your family, now is a great time to do that. So, this Sunday is Palm Sunday, which is the last Sunday before Eastertide. And it's also our last Sunday in March. Wow. And we've been looking at commitment. And just to recap, we've looked at our commitment to curiosity, our commitment to change, our commitment to conscience last week, and the final week we're going to look at compassion. So 4 C's, all to do with C, which is commitment, our commitment to those things. So what is compassion? Have you heard that word before? Compassion. Compassion comes from a Latin word which means to suffer with. And by that, compassion guides us to freeing others from suffering by putting our love into action and recognizing the suffering in others and doing things to help them. We can commit to treating the struggles of others as if it was our own struggle. So you might have found that you might see someone who's had something happen to them, and you take time to listen and you're there for them. You might even give them a hug, and you might say, hey, do you know what? That happened to me, and I understand and I can empathize with that. You might also see someone who has something happen to them and it's not happened to you, but you might still want to treat them as if you're helping yourself, even though you're helping them. That, I guess, is the heart of what compassion is, to suffer with someone, to kind of go through the suffering with them somehow. Now, what I'd like you to do is take your hands and put them together like this. And I think we've done this in previous videos. Hopefully I'm going to make a nice one. What shape is that? What shape is that? A heart shape. A heart shape, a heart shape. Sometimes I make it beat like this. I put it up to my own heart and I kind of go like that. Sometimes I make a large one with my arms like that. And sometimes I see people on the street and I'm carrying my shopping and I can only do half one, and they still understand that I mean a heart shape. Now, I put a picture of 2 plasters on the advertising mail out this week, and one of the plasters is just a regular plaster and the other one has a heart shape on it. And I wondered, what plaster would you choose? Would you choose the regular plaster, the plain plaster, or would you choose the heart plaster? Well, I was hoping that if you got a choice, you'd probably choose the heart one. And what I mean by that is that if we're going to care for other people, we can stick a plaster on, we can help them, but we can also help them in a loving, kind way. And I guess that's what compassion is as well. It's not just going through things, but it's also going through things in a caring, kind way that connects with other people's emotions and what they might be feeling too. And we can start with ourselves. So when we're kind to ourselves and we look after ourselves, we can say, may I be well and happy. But we can also, it can extend to someone in your family. It might extend to someone you don't really even warm to that much, but you might still feel compassion for them. That's something you can work towards. And also to animals and their welfare, as we see all the chicks and the spring lambs and how they enter the world, how do we feel compassion for the animals and how they get treated and looked after as well? So maybe that's something you could talk about with your family. Now I have a story here for you called The Good Samaritan, and it's all about someone looking out for someone else and maybe putting a plaster on out of love as well as just kindness. It's called The Good Samaritan. It's a very famous part of the Bible. One day, a lawyer came to Jesus and asked what he needed to do to live forever. Gosh, that's a good question, isn't it? Or to get into heaven, or to become enlightened. Gosh, imagine asking Jesus that question, how can I get into heaven, or become enlightened, or live forever? And Jesus asked him what the law of the 10 Commandments said. And the lawyer answered, "You shall love God with all your heart, and with all of your soul, and with all of your strength, and your neighbour as yourself." So what we talked about there, treating someone as if you're treating yourself. "Right," said Jesus. Then the lawyer asked, "But teacher, who is my neighbour? In other words, who do I have to treat lovingly?" This is the story Jesus told to the lawyer, the man. Once a man was walking on a lonely stretch of road between Jerusalem and Jericho, so in Israel. Suddenly, a gang of thieves jumped out from the side of the road and surrounded him. They ambushed him. That must have been really scary, huh? "Give us your money," they demanded. I need my money," he cried. "I have to buy food with this money for myself and my whole family." One of the thieves picked up a rock from the side of the road and hit the man in the head. He fell to the ground with a groan, bleeding from his head. That's awful. Seeing no one around, the thieves jumped on the man, took everything he had, including his money and even his clothing, and one of the thieves picked up a stick and hit the man several times before leaving him, even though he was already couldn't fight back. One of the men just kept hitting him and left him on the side of the road, half dead. Gosh, that's quite dramatic. It's making me feel quite emotional. It's awful. Right. So after a time, a priest came walking down the road and he saw the man lying on the side of the road and crossed over to the other side as he hurried by. I'm quite surprised by that. A priest walking down the road seeing someone in trouble. And soon another man appeared and he too saw the wounded man lying in the hot sun, naked and bleeding, and scurried on by. A long time passed. Flies buzzed around the man who was dying from his injuries. Luckily, though, someone else was coming down the road. He was a Samaritan. You might have heard that word. He was a Samaritan riding on his donkey. Now, the people of Samaria were not friendly with the people of this man's country. They were sworn enemies of each other. However, the Samaritan man did not hesitate when he saw the man lying by the side of the road. He didn't even stop to think about whether he should help him because of where he was from or what group the man belonged to. He didn't matter to him. He saw that the man needed his help and he felt compassionate. The Samaritan took healing oil and wine from his bag and cleaned the man's wounds and bound them with bandages made from cloth of his own shirt because he hadn't got a first aid kit with him. He just used what he could. He covered him with a robe. He gave the man a drink of water. Can you imagine? He'd been left in the hot sun all that time. And helped the man onto his donkey. Thank goodness. Slowly, for the man who was in great pain and the road was long, they walked to the next town. There the Samaritan found an inn and asked the innkeeper to give him what was necessary to make the man comfortable. The next day the Samaritan gave money to the innkeeper to pay for the wounded man to stay in the inn until he got better. The Samaritan promised to come back in a few days and pay whatever else was needed to bring the man back to health. So he didn't even just, that day, he didn't just help. He went back a few days later to check everything was okay. And when Jesus finished telling the story, he asked the lawyer, which one of these men acted like a neighbour to the man who fell among thieves? Which one acted like a neighbour? That Jesus asked the lawyer. That's right. I'm sure you've got it right. The lawyer said, the one who showed kindness. Yes, said Jesus. Go and do the same. It's quite a simple story, isn't it? But it's full of one of the best things I think we can think about, really, in terms of our commitment to compassion, is treating everyone with kindness and trying to empathize. And I'm a bit surprised by the people who just walked away. But then maybe we have to feel compassion for them. There's probably a reason. I mean, if he was a priest, he was probably really, really, really wonderful person. Maybe he, for whatever reason, couldn't stop. Maybe he was scared of the blood he saw. Maybe he was frightened. Maybe he thought there was something wrong with the man and that he was going to be violent to him. There must have been all sorts of reasons why those people didn't stop. And I'm sure they were kind too. But the Samaritan was the person who thought, he didn't hesitate. He was in the right frame of mind to just go forward. Maybe even something similar had happened to him and he knew it was the right thing to do and he knew how to take care of him. And maybe he was the best person to do that, even better than the priest and the other man. Maybe they wouldn't have been able to help him, or they would have struggled together differently. So it's a beautiful story, that. Thank you for letting me share it with you. So the clocks have gone forward. The clocks have gone forward, which means that it feels earlier when the clock says it's later, whatever that means. And the reason they go back is because in the darker months, so they're going forward this weekend, but in the darker months they go back so that you get more light in the morning if you're a farmer, or in the old days when they needed candles and there wasn't electricity. So when nature and our turning on the axis as we go around the sun has all changed, the seasons start to change and the light starts to change, so we can then move the clocks forward. And I thought we could make a kindness clock to link in with the clocks changing and also the story about being kind and compassionate. So if you have a bit of paper and a pen, you can draw around a plate, a small plate, and make a circle, and we're going to number 1 to 12 like you would on the clock. So I'm just going to pause the video and do that. So I've done my numbers 3 to 12, and we don't have sometimes we don't know what's going to happen during the day, but this is pretty certain, the hours of the day and the time that we have, although someone's changed the clocks, haven't they? So we get 1 hour less, whatever that means, but sometimes gain an hour. So what was different about the Samaritan? Why was he ready to stop? Well, there's a little thing here, hopefully we can show it on the screen, and it says to pause. A bit like before you start something, you might think, am I the right person to do this? Am I ready to do this? Sometimes if we're hungry or angry, lonely or tired, then is the time to pause, to really think, am I hungry, angry, lonely and tired? Can I show extra kindness and compassion right now? Because actually I need to be kind to myself and look after myself. And that's a little acronym called HALT, which means to pause or to stop. And that's what the Samaritan did, and all the people, he stopped and he thought about it. And actually he wasn't too hungry, and he wasn't angry, and he wasn't lonely, and he wasn't tired. He was ready, so he could help. But if you are all those things, maybe you need to be kind to yourself first before you help other people. And maybe that's why the other people couldn't halt. They had to go and eat or show their anger or go and see their friends or have a rest. I hope that makes sense anyway, it links in. So what I'd like you to do during today, and you can start with right now, is just have a think. You've probably seen lots of emojis, haven't you? I'm sure we can show some on the screen. And sometimes there's happy emojis with a big smiley face, or sad emoji, like sometimes there's thinking emoji like this. Sometimes there's sad emoji with like crying. Sometimes you're crying with laughter. There's a crying with laughter emoji. And for each of the sections, each of the hours, either on the hour or in the middle of the hour, you can put your emoji during the day and you can fill it up with how you feel. So I'm going to pause now and put my one, and you can tell me what yours is. So right now, I don't know if you can see that, I feel really peaceful, like a bit like this. I feel happy after telling the story, and I feel satisfied, and I've had some food, and I'm not all those things, so I feel kind. And actually, if there was someone who needed my help right now, I'd be hopefully ready to help them. So that's a good place. So I've kind of halted, I've paused in my hour. How do I feel? Just gently recognizing that. Later I might feel or I might feel tired, or I might feel confused, and I could put those ones there. So as you fill it up, have a gentle think, and that just ties in very gently with what we're feeling and how we think about ourselves and others, and compassion. And it's as simple as that. And if you do manage to do every single hour of the day, which would be, well, obviously you might, if you're starting at 11, you might just go through to bedtime. So maybe your bedtime's at 7 o'clock. Definitely some sleepy faces here. Then you could send it in to me on a WhatsApp with your parents or by the email. And I'd love to know how you've been doing. Because very soon, hopefully, very soon, we're going to be able to meet up in person again, and so I get to see your lovely faces and spend this hour with you on a Sunday. So I'm really excited about that. Okay, well, I hope you've enjoyed this week. I can't wait to see your clocks, your kindness clocks, your compassionate kindness clocks, if you can say that in one go. And I'll say the closing words with you now. As we leave this friendly place, love give light to every face. May the kindness that we learn light our hearts until we return. And hopefully we're going to return in person fairly soon, in the next couple of months anyway, all being well. So I cannot wait. Take care. Let's blow it out. Bye for now. Bye.
Bright lights, bright lights.